Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Girl Boss Method podcast, hosted by myself, Ritu Bra. So, for tonight's topic, we're going to talk about the best trainers. So, this question was actually asked in check in. One of the check-in questions from the girls: what are the best trainers for the gym? So, firstly, when we're picking footwear, we are looking to optimize our workout. We want to understand what footwear choices there are for the gym. And also, the choice of gym shoes will really depend on the type of exercises that you'll be doing and also your personal preferences. So, most people just have one pair of footwear for the gym. And I mean, that's totally fine, especially if you're starting out. But if you become more seasoned or you start going to the gym a bit more, you start working on different splits and different exercises, etc., you might find that actually having different footwear for different days works for you. And I will talk to you about what I do specifically as well. But for the purposes of this episode, we are going to start off with looking at all the different fitness areas or gym areas in terms of the type of exercises that some of these shoes might work for. So, when it comes to weightlifting, and let's say that we're talking about specifically deadlifts and squats, the Converse Chuck Taylor All Stars, these shoes have a flat and hard sole. So, they help provide a stable base for your lifts. And the lack of cushioning actually helps maintain contact with the ground, especially when you are looking at going for those deadlifts and those squats. And so what I mean by this is that some of the trainers that you get out there, they'll be quite squishy around the sole, or they might have an air bubble, something. When you're doing something like a deadlift and squat, it's really important for you to have ground contact. You need to be able to push and drive away from the ground. That's where you're going to get all the tension and the drive from, especially when we're thinking about deadlifts. Deadlifts are quite often they've thought of a pull exercise because you're effectively holding the bar and you're pulling the bar upwards as you stand. Some of the tactics that we might think of for deadlifting is actually pushing the floor away from you. So if you have a squishy sole on your trainer, you're not really going to be able to push the ground away from you. And so that's the whole idea of having these Chuck Taylor Converses, just because they're really going to help with that. Another option for squats would be a raised heel. And this would be due to less flexibility in the ankles. And therefore, that's going to help you achieve a greater range of motion in your squat. So some people might have poor ankle mobility, poor dorsiflexion at the ankle joint, and therefore doing something like a squat in really flat shoes is actually quite difficult, and it prevents them from actually getting some depth or working through their hip and knee range of motion. So one thing you can do is try and work on improving that ankle mobility. That will massively help. You can do things like mobilizing before your workouts. Foam rolling can actually help as well, release some of the tension in the calves. So there's various different things, and even like banded oscillations as well. But squat shoes, so something with a little heel, a block, will actually really help. And I'll hold my hands up here. Deadlifting, I don't wear any shoes. And I used to wear the Chuck Taylor All Stars. I used to wear good old Converse shoes. They used to be my go-to when I would deadlift. And I may have started using them for squats. And then actually over time, I realized, and I did actually invest. I mean, I've had them about 10 years, actually. I got some Reebok CrossFit squatting shoes. So they've got that heel block in. And that was just really, really good, really helpful. And I actually just stick with them now. And I know that my dorsiflexion, my ankle mobility isn't the best. It's great when I point, but it isn't great when I flex. So it's definitely something that I need to continue working on. But hey, shoes help, right? Next up from here would be running. So running shoes with cushioning. So brands like Nike, Adidas, Brooks, Asics, they can offer various different types of running shoes with ample cushioning. These shoes absorb impact, they provide support, and are designed for forward motion. So choose a pair that suits your running style, be it neutral, stability, or motion control, because we all have flaws in our running. There's generally an area that we might be weak in. So again, what I would advise for this is actually go and take yourself down to a running specific shop and let them have a look at your gait analysis and see what kind of shoe might fit for you. Yeah, might be worth thinking about. Loads of trainers here. Okay, so for HIIT classes or high intensity interval training or cardio classes, you want that sort of cross trainer. You want the shoe that's designed to offer a balance between stability and flexibility. These are going to be suitable for a variety of exercises that you might find in these HIIT workouts, such as jumping, lateral movements, quick transitions, and they'll also offer the flexibility needed for dance-based workouts. Again, when we're thinking about that jumping, lateral movement, quick transitions, that could also be seen in dance as well. So that's something to bear in mind. And then in terms of just sort of like general training, functional fitness, if you only want to invest in one pair of trainers, just get a nice, good old versatile cross trainer, because they are really versatile. If your workouts involve a mix of activities, including weightlifting, cardio, bodyweight exercises, opt for a good pair of cross trainers. They provide a balance of support and flexibility. So again, if you are that person with issues with your deadlifting and you find the cross trainers don't work, or even with squats, take your shoes off. Be mindful and make sure you know what the gym rules are. Do not walk around with no shoes on, because you might drop something on your feet. So working out without trainers, here we go, also known as barefoot training, can have certain benefits for some individuals. It's important to note that while there are potential advantages, it may not be suitable for everyone for all types of exercises. Well, the benefits: improved proprioception, because barefoot training can enhance proprioception, which is your body's awareness of its position in space, right? In space. Without that cushioning and support of your shoes, your feet can better sense the ground, leading to improved balance and stability. One reason why I think deadlifting without shoes is brilliant. That's personal to me, but I think it's great. Strengthening your intrinsic foot muscles. So regular shoe use can contribute to the weakening of the intrinsic muscles of the feet. So training with bare foot can help activate and strengthen those muscles, potentially reducing the risk of foot-related issues. So if you think about your foot always being stuck in a shoe, it's always going to be like really rigid, and you're not really going to be using the full capabilities of your feet, basically. And one of the things that I actually advise people, especially when I've had clients that do come in and see me in person, because as well as the Girl Boss method, I do actually see people in person for like sports massage and Pilates. What I really have a look at is the feet, and again, how much mobility is in that foot, and also what the balance capabilities are. And I'll just ask the question, like, do you spend any time at home without socks on, without shoes on, without slippers, walking around the house? Because that's probably the best time to do it. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So actually being barefoot can provide some people with natural arch support, because it allows your feet to function more naturally, helping maintain and strengthen the natural arches of your feet. This can be particularly beneficial for people with flat feet. Again, I say this with a pinch of salt, because some people might have, really, really bad, bad, I don't know if I want to use that term loosely. They might have really flat feet, and actually it's quite difficult holding that. So again, when you are out and about, then obviously it's important to make sure you are stabilized and cushioned and supported. But there may be some benefit in actually just having a little bit of barefoot time. Better ankle mobility. Have you ever seen gymnasts jump on a beam? That all comes down from ankle mobility and balance, and those intrinsic foot muscles are really, really strong. So just think about that as well, how this kind of crosses all the different barriers of fitness. Barefoot training can promote better ankle mobility as your feet are free to move and flex without the constraints of shoes. So we talked about this being really rigid in shoes. This increased range of motion can be beneficial for exercises that involve ankle movements, aka like gymnastics and jumping, and hey, even just jumping on plyometric drop boxes in the gym. And the funny thing is, when I say about rigid feet or feet that have been spent lifelong in shoes, and they don't really get much movement, they don't really see the light of day. I've seen people in the later years of life, so literally like in their 80s and 90s and 100s, that have really, really funny shaped feet. It's almost as like their feet have like taken the shape of their shoes. So again, maybe that's just a weird observation, but it's just something to think about. And again, you might actually reduce joint impact. Some may argue that barefoot training may actually reduce the impact on your joints by allowing the foot to distribute the force more naturally. You're not going to be pressing on the same areas. You're actually going to be using more of that foot as well. However, this can vary depending on the individual and the type of workout. So this isn't all about barefoot, and I know this has been a very quick summary on trainers for the gym, but I just wanted to kind of talk about this as well because I thought it might be quite interesting. But it's essential to approach barefoot training with caution and consider the following: surface conditions, be mindful of the workout environment. You want to avoid training barefoot on uneven or potentially hazardous surfaces to prevent injuries. So, aka also, if you're in the gym walking around without any shoes on, you're in your socks, your feet are out, whatever you fancy, dumbbells, barbells, weight plates, they are not fun to fall on your feet. That would just be mega painful. Also, again, if this is something you're interested in, walking around the house, gradual transition. If you're not used to barefoot training, start gradually, and this will allow your feet to adapt to the new stress and avoid intense activities initially. So you could start with walking around the house. You could do things like yoga and Pilates from home. These could be ways of improving or increasing that intrinsic, foot adaptation as well. So be mindful overall about adopting this. If you have any pre-existing foot conditions or concerns, wear appropriate footwear that is going to be more comfortable, more supportive, especially when it comes to training in the gym or running or doing exercises. Everything comes down to individual preferences, your foot anatomy. Do you have flat feet or a high arch? The specific workout goals that you should be considering when deciding whether to incorporate barefoot training into your routine, or even just like the type of trainers. So just to take it back to that as well. And for me personally, when I train my upper body, especially if it's machine based, I'm using a bench or I'm sat down or there's not too many demands placed on me standing, I'll actually just wear any trainers that I fancy. So just a regular pair of cross trainers. When it comes to my leg days, I'll throw my squat shoes in the bag and I'll use them. They've got a great crossover for all the other leg exercises. And really interesting, when I leg press, sometimes I wear shoes and sometimes I don't. So again, just really depends. I really like that ground contact feeling as well. It just helps me feel stronger. If you've got any other questions, please ask in the group, or if it's private to you, then send me a DM. For those of you that have been listening to today's podcast, this has been the Girl Boss Method, and I've been Ritu Bra, and I'll see you here next time.